Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen Torres. I'm the faculty director here at Career Launch.
And I'm Sean O'Keefe. I'm the founder, partner, and chief impact officer at Career Launch. Our mission is to help colleges and career programs scale the skill set of holistically teaching how an effective job search or internship search. So the reason we have this live stream is because if students are not part of our network and our partnerships throughout the country, we want to be able to offer some tips and insights and student testimonials into the Career Launch method. And so this is one way that we can share the Career Launch methodology and programming to more students throughout the world, especially during this time of living through a pandemic.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. And I want to welcome you all. Today we have a really special guest, Tannaz Azimi. Hello, Tannaz. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, Tannaz is actually was a participant in the Career Launch programming. So she's actually gone through many of the steps. She's experienced the method. She understands it. And today we wanted to have a conversation of how it helped you, Tannaz, and everything that you're doing. So let's actually start with this. So you're still a student, is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you go to?
I'm a junior at Santa Clara University.
All right. Give a shout out to those Broncos, right?
Yes. Hello, my fellow Broncos.
Awesome. And what are you studying there?
I'm a neuroscience major, computer science minor in the College of Arts and Sciences.
Wow. How did you come up with that?
It took some, got a trial and error, but I came in as a neuro major, wanted to be pre-med, but then did my first chemistry class. I was like, oh, maybe we're not pre-med anymore. But I did, continue with the major, still liked it. And I realized, neuro is this whole opening field in biotech and all of that. And as I learned more about the Career Launch program, I kind of learned about also jobs that are out there. And I realized computer science is something I could use. So that's actually when I added my minor on too. So, yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit. How did you find out about Career Launch?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a part of the Lead Scholars program on campus, which is the program for first generation college students. And this program was being sent us in emails, and it was, hey, come to the informational night, learn how to find an internship. I was like, I was a sophomore at that point, at the beginning of my sophomore year. And I was like, start early, look for stuff. So went to the informational meeting, met Sean there, and this was pre-COVID, but met Sean there and, talked about the program. I was like, hey, this could work. I don't have to, just apply online, which I assume we'll talk about and all that, but it's a different type of thing than just filling out online applications for internships. So I was like, why not?
So I want to ask this. So you were a sophomore. Before your sophomore year, tell me what you were thinking about as far as internships, the job search. What was going through your mind as like a freshman? Had you thought about this before?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on Santa Clara's campus, we do talk about internships a lot, but I was told, as a freshman, you don't really get internships. Like that doesn't happen. So I was like, okay, so my first year, for summer of my first year, I didn't really have an internship, but going into my sophomore year, I was like, okay, I need to start applying online, look for what's available, go on LinkedIn, just, do what I thought was the only way you could do it, right? Just apply and see what's available to us. We also have what's it called? Handshake, which is kind of like LinkedIn, but for our school. And I thought, okay, there's job searches on there. We can just apply. And that was my, go-to. What I did was like, okay, gotta spend my sophomore year doing all of those apps. But then I saw this and I was like, well, what can I lose? Just learn a new method.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And so you were thinking about, just going and doing the regular things, right? So
yeah.
You apply online, you look at LinkedIn, try and find what's out there. What was it that when you saw the announcement, do you remember what it was that kind of appealed to you?
Yeah, I think what stood out to me was something along the lines, I don't remember what the exact flyer said, to be honest, but it was something around the lines of don't be sitting there, you won't have to fill out 100 applications. I don't know what it was, something like that. Lead, the program had advertised it along the lines of learn how to do it effectively, something like that. And I was like, hey, I want to be as efficient as possible as I can, classes and, try to find internship, because I'd heard all these stories like, oh, I like applied to 100 things and I didn't hear back. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't want that to be me. So
Yeah.
I guess that was the part.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Right? We know these stories where people are like, I'm applying to 50, 100 jobs, 100 internships, and nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so it was this thing. Okay. So that's kind of what got you interested in the programming. Let's talk a little bit about then, what was your expectation from the program before it started? Did you have any expectations?
I only kind of went in to like learn a process to find an internship. I honestly didn't think I'd actually find an internship. And then I will learn how to do this, and hopefully by my senior year, I'll make this work, is kind of how I went in.
Sean, do you find that students sometimes have that same mindset that they're like, okay, let me just learn something and hopefully down the road?
Yes. Yep. Yep. And it's one thing to know, right? And it's one thing to implement and take action. And but life's not about just what you know; it's what you do with what you know. And so if we can at least I'm glad that we at least our partner, the first gen program, created a compelling hook to sign up for the info session, and that once she came to this info session, she said, "Hey, this is something I want to spend some time on." And then and then I guess we'll hear the rest of the story from here.
Awesome. Okay. So you went in, you just were hoping that you learn this process, and maybe in the future at some point it helps you with an internship. Mm-hmm. Let's start talking about then the steps as you were learning. What was, what do you remember the first really impactful piece that you took away as you were going through the program?
Definitely. I think what I first kind of stood out to me, and I was like, okay, like this is like a process, was when we did our 5x5, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had to find 5 different companies, or 5 different, for me, I was looking at different science related things. So I even looked at like medical offices and stuff like that, and finding 5 people within there that we could contact to talk to. And that really stood out to me. I was like, I didn't even think about reaching out to people in these, companies and talking to them. I thought like, oh, like I need to fill this out and then that will lead me to talking to people. But no, you can just talk to people and they will talk back. But I think that's really what stood out to me.
Yeah. So when you heard this, that, okay, you could talk to people, I'm curious what was going through your mind, because you said that, that didn't occur to you. Were you scared? Were you like, oh yeah, that's just as normal?
Yeah, I mean, cold calling, cold emailing, like that was totally new to me. I was like, oh, I need to know someone to email them, or they need to give me their phone number. They need to give me their email. But sometimes that's not necessary, because, you can, this stuff is available and you can contact them and they're willing to talk. And I didn't even think about that, because I was like, oh, I'm probably like overstepping, but that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I always remember the story. I think it was Steve Jobs that like called the founder of Hewlett Packard out of the phone book and like literally just rang him up. And people, they have this trepidation that, oh gosh, people aren't going to want to hear from me. How did you overcome that?
I mean, for me, using, the tips Sean had for us, and even we had our weekly like mentoring sessions, and those conversations really just, pushed me out of my box. And it's like, the worst that can happen is you just don't get a response, right? Like you're not going to, no one's going to be like, oh, why'd you email them? Like, it's just like, the worst you get is like no reply. And going in with that mindset, I was like, okay, like either something can come out of this or nothing can come out of this. So why not just try? And I think once I kind of got that mindset, I was like, okay, like keep emailing. So then you couldn't stop me. It's like, oh no, she's sending too many emails.
Were you, so I'm going to ask, were you still scared after you started?
I mean, I definitely, until I was able to have my first like conversation, I think I was still like, oh, like, I don't know what's going to happen. What if I say the wrong thing? But then once that happened, I was like, this is going to be fine. So I think after that step, I was okay.
Awesome. Okay. So you finally got over this. You're, making emails and calls and, going through the process, if you will. Tell us about your first career conversation. Do you remember that?
I do. It was, for me, the way things worked out is maybe probably a little bit out of the norm, but my first career conversation is what got me my internship. But
really? Okay.
yeah, so my first email I sent was actually to a new faculty member on campus, and this new faculty member in the psych and neuro department, and his research was related to computer science. And I just found out like online that there was this new faculty member. So after doing my research, and I reached out, sent an email, hi, that I'm a student here, and I heard you did. I love to have a conversation with you. And he replied a couple days later. He's like, yeah, why don't you come in? We'll have a chat. We talked about for 30 minutes, just about his interests, my interests, what he could, tell me about his experiences. And then I did a follow-up, thank you and all of that. And I had a follow-up conversation with him, another 30 minutes, in person. And then he's like, oh, hey, you want to be my research assistant? And I was like, oh, that would be lovely. I would love to be a research assistant. And it kind of was, got the ball rolling. But I remember that first conversation really well because I was asking questions that I was getting answers to that would help me, even if I didn't get anything out of that per se as an internship, I was getting answers about what I could do in the future. And it was just super helpful all around.
Yeah. And so, Sean, I'm curious because most students, when they do this for the first time, there is some fear. How did you build the programming to help folks like Tannaz, who they've never had, these career conversations? What is it about the programming that you think really helps someone get over that?
Yeah, we spend, I don't know the exact percentage, if it's 50% or what percentage it is, but the psychology and just empathizing with college students and their mindset and how they process this concept of building relationships from scratch. I think our programming is, to make up a percentage, is 50% kind of helping out with the psychological aspect of it, and then 50% tactical. And so, having gone through it myself, I know it was 20 years ago, but then, starting doing this in the classroom 10 years ago, and then co-curricularly, like Tannaz's experience, where she wasn't in my classroom, but she heard about the programming as something that, that she could do above and beyond her classes. It's just thinking about things and as if the student was a professional. So we like to talk about, imagine yourself 20 years from now, and you have the job that you'd like to have. And life is good, and one day you're either sitting at your desk or you're looking at your phone and you're checking your email, and there's a professionally written email that comes through. It piques your curiosity. You can tell that it wasn't copy and pasted. And it's a polite request, for 15 to 20 minutes of your time. And I tell students, think of yourself as this person 20 years from now. If you were receiving an email from a student, wouldn't you say yes? And then, I think 99% of the time students go, yeah, I would say yes if I was 20 years from now. And then they go, oh, aha. Yeah, so some people are going to be like me, and they're already, 20 years older than me. And I get it. And then, we also talk about, there's also 6 main reasons why professionals say yes. But kind of just going through that hypothetical of think about yourself 20 years from now, wouldn't you say yes to a current student? And then that's kind of a light bulb moment for a lot of students.
Yeah. Tannaz, was that helpful for you?
Oh, absolutely. Thinking at the people who are professionals now were students once, like I am now or my peers are. So they went through that, and I think thinking that, they're not just the professional, right? They have a whole history of how they got there. So how we can relate to them definitely helped.
Yeah, better than the Amex Platinum is that student card, isn't it, Tannaz?
Oh yeah. That student card is the best.
So awesome. So you had this conversation, and you said that it was this conversation that turned into the internship. I want to talk about this specifically. Like, was it like, how does that happen? Because I'm sure there's going to be students out there and people who work in career center offices that are going to be like, no, you can't just like create an internship. You can't just do that. You have to go through HR. You have to fill out this application, go to the career fair, and do it. Like, there's this step by step. How did you turn a conversation, right, with this professional into an internship? Like, how does that happen?
It was something I didn't think could happen either. I was like, this is against the rules. But once I had that conversation, I learned, the steps to take. I think you realize people have more power maybe than you think they might. And if they see you as someone who could do the job and who could be successful in it, I think they would be willing to give you a position that they think would fit you. For me, at that point in the conversation I was having, I felt that there was a lot of similarities between me and what he was looking for. And it didn't, I initiated if there's anything available, I'd love to take it on. And he was like, oh, actually, yes, I'm looking for someone. And then he asked me. So I think asking doesn't hurt. And, sometimes they might not even know they're looking for someone until they see that person. So I think that was a situation that worked for me.
So this wasn't just any internship though, because I know the full story. This was a 2-year paid endowed fellowship to do research. And you sought out this individual because of the type of research, and it kind of combined at neuroscience and computer science, which is exactly your two fields of focus. But I did hear you say that you finished the first career conversation and you didn't have something. Then you followed up and I think you said you had a second 30-minute conversation. So can you kind of just tell the audience, and I don't even remember this part of the story. I don't think I know this part of the story. That first career conversation, how did it end? And then, how did you create that second conversation, and approximately how far in advance afterwards did that happen?
Definitely, yeah. The first conversation ended kind of like a thank you. I really enjoyed learning from you, and he I think it helped. He was a new faculty member, and he really liked learning about what I was interested in on the campus too. And it ended on a really high note, like basically hope to talk soon, probably hopefully our paths will cross again kind of way. And I followed up, within the next 24 hours with a thank you email, but then I also sent him a thank you note, handwritten thank you note. And after that thank you note, he replied back to me saying, I received this, thank you for doing that, have it in my office. And I responded to the email like, of course, and all of that. And I would, love to have another conversation with you, because our first conversation was more about, how he got to his job, why he's doing what he is. But our second conversation, I kind of was leaning into, what is the work, specifically you're doing on campus, and how's it going? Kind of that type of conversation. And then he was like, why don't you come back in my office? We'll have another conversation about that. So that's kind of how that happened. And then once we finished talking about his research, and he was like, wait, you're doing what I, am studying. And I was like, yeah. And then that's how, my questions leaded up to, hey, I'd love to work here and all of that.
Okay. So that's awesome. Tannaz, the audacity to turn this into something, like this. Where did that come from? Are you like this naturally out there, outgoing, spin things, what is it, Steve Jobs, distortion field? Where did this come from?
Oh, no. I mean, I would have never, ever asked someone for an internship if it wasn't for what I've learned in the program. But the program taught me that it's okay to step bounds a little bit and ask these questions. And I think something the program taught me that kind of clicked in my head was, people are willing to help and they're willing to, teach you. And everyone's not just, doing their job. Like, okay, gotta keep doing it. Like there's people that need to keep going and it's a whole cycle. And I think the program taught me, if that conversation worked and you see something going and you can see yourself there, like asking that question, I think in the end, the worst is no, right? So going into it and saying maybe that will be a yes is, what made me ask it. But oh gosh, if it wasn't for what I had learned for the program, I definitely would not have asked that question.
I mean, that's just so awesome, and I think for those of you out there who are watching this and you're listening to Tannaz's story, I want you to understand that there is a process, right? There is a way to turn these conversations, to turn this networking into jobs, into internships, into the things that you want. In fact, for those of you who are interested, we actually have a webinar coming up it's the 17th, right, Sean?
17th, next Wednesday.
It should be it's scrolling across the bottom there, February 17th at 3 p.m., where we're actually going to have a webinar on how to get a summer internship or a job upon graduation. And Sean's going to be sharing some of these tips that Tannaz is talking about, and so Tannaz, we only have a few more minutes. I don't want to keep you too long. I know you have other things and so forth, but if there was something that you could share with other students out there that are, questioning, like, can I get a summer internship? Is this really possible? What would you share with them about, this program, going through it and so forth?
Definitely. I think my biggest takeaway from this program was that it taught me skills that, yes, absolutely are used to get internships, get jobs. But I think this whole cold calling, cold networking, it's something I still do. I have this research assistant position, but I still use, my student card, and I constantly am emailing people and having, conversations with them, and I keep learning. And I think that's a skill that has really put me out there and, taught me to go past what I thought I could do, if that makes sense. And I'm no longer, I'll send that email, and if I get no response, I'll send that second email, and I'm not worried, like they're going to think I'm bothering them. No, like the skills I've learned are more than just getting the internship, but something I think I will use like down the line a lot. And that's, something that's really stuck with me. So I would urge everyone to do this program if you're in college.
That's
it's literally
awesome.
The best.
Sean, when you hear that, right? When you hear students like Tannaz and Yuli, who we've had on the program before, how does that make you feel, and how does it make you want to keep spreading this?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it from a distance, but I get goosebumps. To hear your story, Tannaz, it just makes me feel so grateful that I'm paying forward what was given to me. So I had a college professor who changed my life, and sparked the seed that has led to my being a teacher and then creating this social enterprise, and that's why I feel so passionate. And Stephen, I'm so thankful for your partnership, because I wouldn't be on a live stream if it weren't for you. And I know this is an effective way to reach young adults, college students. But this is a little out of my own comfort zone. But I do it because I know, like Tannaz, I've experienced this myself, and I know how powerful it could be, because it's not just about the short-term gain, as Tannaz finished with. There's concepts and strategies and a mindset that stick with students. I think for the rest of their lives. It stuck with me for the rest of my life. So, yes, so glad, Tannaz. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story today.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was really tremendous. Again, everyone out there, thank you for watching. We'll be back here next week on the 17th, or whatever day you happen to watch this on a replay. if you see scrolling across the bottom of the screen is the actual link to go to. It's www.careerlaunch.academy/LYC-webinar. You can sign up for our webinar on how to get a summer internship or job upon graduation. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your time. Thank you again, Tannaz and Shauna. We'll see you all next week on our live stream. Bye-bye, everyone.